Hello, my name is Caitlin Wallace, and as you guys know by now, my book for this semester was Fear by Michael Crichton, and this is my final presentation. So, my thesis for my final paper was while Sphere shares the idea of humans creating something that leads to their doom with both Jurassic Park and Prey, some of Sphere's elements set it apart, and these elements may be the reason that it was less successful than Michael Crichton's other novels. So, in Sphere, while it does share this idea with both of these other books, it also uses elements that set it apart. So, in Sphere, it's not strictly science fiction like these other two, it also includes fantasy aspects, such as the power to create whatever you can imagine. And I think that this sets it apart from these two because it is something that you created with your imagination and not with your own hands like it is with Jurassic Park and Prey. So the main points of my paper are here, but I'm not going to read it all out for you. I'll just give you a quick summary of it. So the first main point is that all three of these books share the idea that humans create something that will lead to their doom. So in Jurassic Park, it may be dinosaurs, and in Prey, it's nanobots, but in Sphere, it's that humans created these problems that eventually lead to the destruction of the underwater habitat where they're living and the death of many of the crew members. So the things that they end up creating are a monster squid that attacks and a ring of bombs that goes off and ultimately destroys the habitat. And the reason that Crichton wrote it this way is to show that technological advancement is good, but if we go too far, it may ultimately lead to our destruction. And then the other main point is many of the elements in Sphere separate it from Crichton's other novels. It sets it apart. So, like I said, it uses a blend of genres. It talks about science fiction and fantasy, and it also uses realistic science in it. And the use of fantasy specifically to portray the message that he uses throughout the books, but specifically he uses fantasy in Sphere to do that. And then the other element that separates it from Crichton's other novels is the use of fear. So, in these other novels, they create these things without fearing them. But in Sphere, it's their fear that creates what it destroys them eventually. So the fantasy in Sphere is really important. There are many fantastic elements, including an evil being that lives in the underwater habitat's computer, a spaceship from the future that holds a sphere where they get the power to create anything, and a monster squid that constantly attacks the habitat where the crew lives. And most of these fantasy elements stem from the original power to create anything and anything that the crew can imagine. And the fantasy in Sphere is used to further Crichton's idea that something that humans create will end up bringing their destruction. All of these ideas tie in together, and that's where the fantasy part comes in. Because without this fantasy, it would just be the same idea. But the way Crichton uses it really explains how it works and how what we fear can bring our death. So the activity for this is a little bit more fun than some of my last activities. So it's just if you could gain any power or create anything that you want, what would it be and why? And this is because some of my other activities were really thought provoking, but I thought this would be more fun and maybe everybody could get into it and enjoy it a little bit more. So, in conclusion, Sphere was published by Michael Crichton in 1987, and while it's not his most successful novel, it may be his most interesting. Sphere pushes the bounds of the science fiction genre and uses its fantasy. And it's written in such a way that you feel as though you could be one of the characters on this massive adventure. You feel like you could be there. So, all in all, if you're looking for an action packed book full of futuristic technology, a monster squid, a shocking plot twist, and a surprising ending, then I highly suggest that you try out Sphere. Thank you.